You're staring at a screen. The deadline is tomorrow. You know what you need to do and the panic that awaits if you don't. But instead of typing that first sentence, your finger twitches and you open another app. You've chosen a trivial distraction over a critical task. Psychologists define this specific behavior as the irrational, voluntary delay of an intended action, despite expecting to be worse off for the delay. Researchers call the space where this breakdown happens the intention-action gap. It's the psychological void between the plan we make in the morning and the reality of what we actually execute by the evening. Many people try to bridge this gap with calendar apps, expensive planners, or strict productivity frameworks, yet these tools frequently fail. Surveys show that over 95% of chronic procrastinators desperately wish they could stop, but find themselves stuck in the exact same loop. These methods fail because they treat procrastination as a simple logistics problem. To find the actual cause of the delay, we must look past the schedule and analyze a hidden behavioral equation that governs our every decision. To understand that equation, we have to look at how we handle stress. We are wired to seek out short-term mood repair. This is the brain's primary automatic defense mechanism against unpleasant feelings. When a task triggers boredom, frustration, or anxiety, the brain registers that project as an immediate emotional threat. To secure instant relief, it forces you to avoid the task. As researchers put it, we give in to feel good. This cycle of avoidance is amplified by specific personality traits. One of the most common is perfectionism. It sounds counterintuitive, but perfectionism often fuels delay. People high in perfectionistic concerns experience a chronic fear of falling short of their own excessively high standards. That fear transforms an ordinary, mundane assignment into a source of intense psychological pain. For the perfectionist, procrastination serves as an emotional shield. By delaying the start, they successfully avoid confronting the reality of their own potential inadequacy. Emotion is only half the equation. The other half is time. We operate with a hardwired present bias, a neurological tendency to prioritize immediate needs over distant future rewards. This is compounded by what psychologists call the empathy gap. Brain imaging shows that we perceive our future selves as literal strangers. When we procrastinate, parts of our brain genuinely believe the stress we're creating is somebody else's problem to deal with. This chart visualizes a concept called Temporal Motivation Theory. It maps exactly how time and emotional biases combine to predict human delay. The formula calculates the utility, or our desire to perform an action, based on expectancy and value, divided by our impulsiveness and the delay until the deadline. Notice the flat, steady line representing the utility of socializing. Now look at the curve for writing an essay. Because the reward is temporally distant, its utility starts incredibly low. It isn't until the deadline becomes an immediate, looming threat, right here at this intersection on December 3rd, that the urgency to write finally overtakes the desire to socialize. This sudden flip in our motivation is called a preference reversal. This graph shows another example, where long-term intentions to save money are abandoned right here at time t1, crossing into short-term spending, purely because the payoff of saving is too far away. The speed at which this reversal happens is accelerated by individual personality traits. In the Big Five personality model, people with low conscientiousness and high distractibility are highly sensitive to these delays, making them far more likely to abandon their plans. At a clinical extreme, these traits manifest in conditions like ADHD. Here, the behavioral equation is severely skewed by time blindness, where an hour passes but feels like 10 minutes, and an inability to sustain attention on understimulating tasks, regardless of how important they actually are. When impulsivity and present bias warp the variables of this equation, the result is practically guaranteed. The present self will systematically sacrifice the future self just to feel good in the moment. Understanding procrastination as a biological equation gives us an advantage. We can stop relying on brute force willpower and start manipulating the variables directly. First, you have to fix the task aversiveness. To bypass perfectionistic anxiety, you must consciously lower the emotional stakes. Give yourself permission to do a terrible, highly flawed first draft. By removing the pressure to be perfect, the brain stops treating the work as a threat. Second, you have to fix the delay. A deadline 3 months from now holds zero psychological weight. You need to create artificial, highly proximal goals, like completing one single paragraph by 2 p.m. today. This pulls the deadline into the immediate present, neutralizing the effects of present bias. Finally, you have to close the empathy gap. The next time you're tempted to push a project to tomorrow, reframe the decision. You aren't saving time. You are actively choosing to transfer psychological pain and stress onto your future self. Productivity emerges when we stop fighting the clock and start managing the internal states that make tasks feel impossible. By acknowledging our specific personality traits and adjusting the math of our intentions, the gap between what we plan and what we actually do begins to close.